Hello viewers, welcome back. I'm Praveen, you're watching Module 3 of C++ Q&A. And in case if you have not watched Module 1 and 2, then do watch it. So today's first question. Define constructor. How constructor are different from method or member functions? Illustrate with example. So what is a constructor? A constructor is a member function of a class which initializes object of a class. In C++, constructor is automatically called with objects creation. So a constructor is a member function. It's similar. Okay, the only difference is going to be the moment you create an object, the constructor is automatically called and it's executed. So constructor has special member functions which are called by compiler every time an object of that class is instantiated. Constructor has the same name of the class and may be defined inside or outside the class definition. Now, the constructor basically there can be many constructors, okay, and it has the same name of the class. The main characteristics of a constructor is it's the same name of the class. Now, because it's of the same name of the class, it's automatically called whenever you create a function, create an object. Now, there are three types of constructors. The default constructor, the parameterized constructor, and a copy constructor. Now, default constructor is one which will not have any parameters basically. So default constructor is one which will not have any parameters. It's a simple function without any parameter. So it's having the same name of the class. And every time you create a constructor without a parameter basically, so that constructor is called. Now parameterized constructor is something like you are giving the parameters. So I will explain to you with an example. So you have if you have two parameters or two variables and you have both the parameters, you're calling a constructor with a parameter, then that particular constructor will call. So in that case, the first constructor, default constructor, is not only one constructor get called based on what is the parameter that you have. And copy constructor is like it will copy the one object to the other. So whenever you're copying from one object to other, the copy constructor is called actually. So how constructor are different from method or member function? So a constructor has the same name as the class itself. A constructor has the same name as the class itself. A constructor doesn't have a return type. A constructor is automatically called when an object is created. So to tell you, a function can have a return type. A constructor is automatically called, whereas a function you will have to call it. If you do not specify a constructor, C++ compiler generates a default constructor for us. Now in case if we are not doing, then it creates a default without any parameters. It just calls it and it does nothing. In fact, expect no parameters and an empty body basically. So I'll show you with an example a constructor. So this is a constructor program we have, and what is it having is you can see this is a constructor class and it's having a constructor called construct. It's a default constructor wherein it is having no parameters here inside in the function. Whereas this is a parameterized constructor. You can just see it's having the same name as the class again. Same, the constructor class name is construct and this is a construct. Whereas it is having one parameter integer x inside the function or inside the constructor basically. Now in the main function, whenever you create an empty object, it goes on and directly calls only the default constructor. So what we have done in the default constructor is we are telling this is the default constructor first thing, we're just putting out to show that it is got executed. And as this particular construct is having one member, data member, so we are, or one variable, we are actually initializing that one data member id is equal to 1. The next one here, what we are doing is we are actually passing the parameter. So whatever the parameter we have solved, whatever value we are going to send, that is the value we are going to assign to that member function or data member basically, or variable. So construct object, here it's an empty, so it will assign one value because this is called. So object 1 will have a value 1. So we are outputting this construct 1 and we are telling object, we are printing out that particular value. So object 1 dot id, and we are able to access that all data from the variable from outside the class itself, because we have actually given it as a public. The access specifier is public, so even the data member is a public, so we can access that data member directly from the function itself or from the main function itself. So here again the construct, we create object 2 and we are sending value 21. So naturally the second one, the cout, is going to be printing 21. Okay. So whatever value is getting assigned, this function will be called the second parameterized constructor, and because the value we sent is 21, the 21 will get assigned. Now the third one is a copy constructor. What we are doing is we are copying the variable from 1 to 2, and this is a copy. We will print whatever value we have assigned for object 2 becomes the value of object 3. So this is called as a copy constructor. It is copying the data from the object 2, is all the parameters, all the data from the object 2 is assigned to object 3. But object 3 has to be of the same type, only then we can assign a object of the same type can only be assigned. So let's execute this. So I have already compiled this and we can execute it. You can just see the constructor id is default constructor is called. First time the default constructor is called and the constructor id is 1. You can just see here. So whenever we we created an object, automatically the constructor has got executed. So default constructor call, and the second line is constructor id is so it is printing whatever value we have assigned for the default constructor or the class basically. So by default it is assigning 1, so it's displayed 1 here. The second time when we created an object, automatically it is called the second constructor. So we have assigned created an object 2, and basically we have created an object 2 and we have assigned value 21. So the parameterized constructor is called automatically and 21 is assigned, and when we are printing the value of the second object, the data member of the the variable of the object, you can see it is 21. Now when we have added the value here, you can see we have added we have copied the object 2 to object 3, then you can see the object 3 whenever we are printing, it is actually having the same value 21. So I hope you have understood very clearly. So our next question is, what is operator overloading? Write a C++ program to add two complex numbers by overloading plus operator. So let us first understand what is operator overloading. Now operator overloading is actually a part of polymorphism. Polymorphism means ability to take different forms, or polymorphism means having many forms. Okay. So a polymorphism, at runtime we have two types of polymorphism: function overloading and operator overloading. So I'll basically, before I actually show you what is operator overloading, I would want to actually tell you what is function overloading, so that it becomes more clearer to you and it's more easy for you to understand the operator overloading. So let's first see what is function overloading. Function overloading, when there are multiple functions with same name but different parameters, then these functions are said to be overloaded. Functions can be overloaded by change in number of arguments and or change in type of arguments. Now you can see the examples I've given here. We have one function which is having only one integer as a argument. The another function is there which is having a double as an argument. And another function is there having the same name, func. So all these functions are having same name, func. But the parameters are changing. The third function is having the parameters, two integer parameters. Now based on whatever we are going to give the parameters, so if you are calling a function and giving only, if you are giving an integer as an argument, then automatically it will call the first one. If you have a function and which is having a double as a parameter, then it will automatically call the second function. And if you are having a function which is having a like integer and double both, two different integers, two integers as an argument, then it will call the third one. So basically, based on the function type, it is at runtime, it is able to make a decision at a compile time. It's able to make a decision like what type of function, which function has to be called. So I hope you have understood this. Okay, while explaining to you operator overloading, I may even create one function and show you this one, no problem. The next one is operator overloading. Now operator overloading is a specific type of polymorphism in which some or all operators like plus, equal to, or equal to are treated as polymorphic functions, and as such have different behaviors depending on the type of arguments. The similar to that function overloading, here we are, instead of a function, we are using an operator like plus, minus, or multiplication or division or whatever, all these operators which are there. We will use one of those operator and we will call and we will tell we want this kind of behavior for this particular operator when this is a function, or when these kind of values when I am giving. So based on the values that, or based on the type of arguments, you are giving, it will actually decide, okay, which operator is to be called, whether the default operator is to be called or the function operator which you have created, overloaded operator, that is to be called based on the argument type that you are actually giving to the function. Based on that, the decisions are made. So let me show you with an example. This is an overloaded and it's operator overloading example. It's a very simple one I have created. So you have a class A, and this class A, these are constructors. Okay, so this constructors are getting overloaded here. One is parameterized and the first default, and this is a parameterized. And we have one more function here, a function which will give out the value, whatever value is there of A, where and B, we are giving the values back. So A and B values will be. So this is actually this is a program that adds two complex values. So two complex numbers. So the complex number is A and the imaginary number. The number is A and the imaginary number is B. So what we are doing now here is this is the operator. The operator overloaded function, this is a syntax basically. Now what the syntax is telling is you will first have a return type. So the return type is again of the same object or same class. So we have a default return type, that is A. Then we are telling operator that this plus is an operator, because whenever you are using an operator overloading, you will have to tell operator. So this is a part of the syntax, and whichever operator you want to use, maybe plus, minus, integer, or plus, minus, division, multiplication, whatever you want to use an operator, you can basically use it here. And here is the function that here is the object that you want to send for the addition, multiplication, and so on. So here we are creating, in this particular class, we are creating one new object of temp class, and what we are doing is whatever value is come, so whichever function is going to call, whichever actually object is going to be calling, that becomes the default actually. So that becomes like, this is A means it's taking whichever the first one. Let me go back and show you here. So if C and C plus 2 is there, so it's what it is doing is, this C1 is a default one, so C1 is calling C2, it's something like that. So the A value, this A value belongs to the C1, and object dot whatever values come in this object is actually of the C2. So object dot A means it is going to take the value of C2, and object dot B, it's going to take the imaginary value of the C2, and B is actually taking the value of C1. And both of them, as we have created one object called temp, we are assigning those values and we are returning that. So C3 becomes the return value. So if we print C3, we are going to get the addition of these both complex number. So let us run this. Now in the function you can see here, we created the main function, you can see we created an object called C1, and we called a default constructor. 5 and 6 is a value we gave. So here the default constructor, A is getting assigned 5 and B is getting assigned 6. So the imaginary value is 6, the value is 5, and the imaginary part is 6. This in C2 it is 7 and 8. So 7 and 8 is a value that is getting assigned. And C3 is, we have created without, so a default constructor is going to be called, and it's simple, doing nothing, that's it. Now here we are going to show the value, so we are going to show whatever value we have assigned, we are going to show it here. So C1.show is actually going to show the value of C1. Then C2.show is going to show the value of C2. And C1.C2 is calling the operator overloading, that is this particular function, operator overloaded function. So it is called by the C1, as I told you, and the C2 is actually the value which is sent, and both are going to get added, and the new value is going to be stored into the temp, and the temp value is returned, and as the temp value is assigned to the C, whatever return value is assigned to C, so naturally the C value gets updated with the addition of these two complex numbers. Now here again we are displaying the C3 value. So let us execute this and check. So I will execute it, I'll compile it. So I've executed this. Now you can see here the first object is 5 and 6. So 5 plus I6. The second value is 7 and 8. 7 plus I8 and C3. And C3 is here, as you see, C1 plus C2. That is 5 plus 7, 12, and 6 plus 8 is 14. So the sum of this is displaying here. I hope you have understood this. It's been very clear and simple to understand. So okay, you have understood the operator overloading, and what are the functions that you can overload basically. So all these operators you can overload. All these operators you can plus, minus, multiplication, all these you can But you cannot overload this. You cannot overload a dot operator. You cannot overload the all these operators basically. Scope resolution operator, or this is a ternary operator, which I have already explained in earlier video. This is specially for adding, like you want to take a if condition and in one line. So a ternary operator. So you cannot overload this as well. You cannot overload the hash or double hash or any preprocessors basically. The next question, what is the use of destructor in C++? How is it different from constructor? Explain in brief. Now we have just seen the constructor basically. Okay, let's go back to the program and I'll explain to you in the program itself. So you've seen this, the destructor is actually, the constructor is whenever the program object is created, it is automatically executed. The destructor is exactly opposite to that. Whenever you exit out of that object, or whenever you are actually exiting out of the program, and okay, the destructor is automatically called. It is particularly called, so everything that you want to free, if at all you have created some files and you want to close those files, or you have some memory, you have mallocked some memories and you want to actually free all that memory. So for all that, the destructor becomes very useful. So I'll actually put one destructor and show you. I have it here. So first I will execute. You can see here what happens. You see that it is only constructors are getting executed, and because we don't have a destructor, it has not executed. Let me add a destructor here. So this is a destructor basically. What it is having is, it's just again the class name, but it is having that tilde before it. So whenever the object gets n, okay, this is automatically called. So let us see now and compile this. Let me compile, build this, and I'll execute it. Okay, so it's executed. It had not got built. So you can just see now. So 3 times the destructor is called for every object that has been created. So it is going in a reverse order. It is actually we cannot know the orders actually many a times. So this destructor, the third and the second, you can see 2 values, 21, 21. These are the destructors called, that is object 3 and 2 is called first, and then object 1 is called, and that is, you can see it is the I values of which we have just printed. So we have added this in destructor called for ID. So which destructor is called, we can just know. Because of that I added this. So you can see this has got executed when the program has ended. So I hope you have understood very clearly what is the use of destructor. I told you what is the use of destructor. It is very useful whenever we are to free the memories that we have actually blocked. How is it different from constructor? I explained to you how is it different. So the constructor is called whenever the object is created, and whenever the object is end, or we are closing the object, or we have come out of the object, or we have ended the object. Particularly when the program ends, the objects are destroyed naturally, so the destructor will be executed. So here we can read out, this is like same thing what I have explained to you. A destructor is a special member functions of a class that is executed when an object of its class goes out of scope, or whenever the delete expression is applied to the pointer to the object of that class. A destructor will have exact same name as the class and prefixed with tilde, and it can neither return a value nor it can take any parameters. So here it's becoming more clearer that we cannot even give any parameters, nor it can return any value. Destructor can be very useful for releasing resources before coming out of the program, like closing file, releasing memories, etc. I hope it's very clear. So our next question is, write a class rectangle containing two data items, length and breadth, and four methods: set data, get data, display, and area. So four methods: set data, get data, display, and area. To set the set data is to set the length and breadth. Get data is to get the input from so we have to get the length and breadth. To display is the display function, and to find the area is the area function. So these are write a class rectangle containing two data items, length and breadth, and four methods. So these are four methods, and I explained to you what those four methods are. So let us go through the program and understand this program. So you can see here I have created a length and breadth, two data items as length and breadth as expected, and four methods: set data, get data, display, and area. So set data, get data, display, and area. Now in the set data, it's like whenever I am setting a data with a predefined value, this is going to be called. Get data, whenever I want to accept values from the user, then get data is called. And display, whatever values are there I want to display, I will call the display. In fact, I am also displaying area. I don't think it is required, but because we have area as a function, so we can actually comment this out. Then area is there, so which will calculate the area. So let us actually execute this. And one more thing I would do, I would better put this below. Probably I will even call this. Okay, let us execute this, compile it, compiled, build, and execute. Okay, so let us understand the program. So we are here in the main function we are creating two objects, rt1, rt and rt1. The rt objects we are calling the set data method, that is 7 and 4 we are giving the values. So length is 7 and 4 is breadth. rt1 we are calling the method get data, and because it's a get data where we have to give the data, we are taking input from the user whenever we are calling the get data function, so it's asking the values. So enter the length. So I enter something like, so length is 10 and it's 5 is a breadth. Now we gave values 10 and 5. Then what we have done is we have actually called area. Okay, so the next one what we are doing here is rt1.display. So we are displaying the value, whatever values length and breadth is there, we are displaying. So rt we have set 7 and 4, so it is 10, 11, length is 7 and breadth is 4. And in rt1 we have set value 10 and 4 for 10 and 5, so it is telling length is 10 and breadth is 5. And as we have already called here, area is equal to rt dot area. So here in area we are having the value of area, that is length into breadth. Our area function, if you see, it is returning the length into breadth. It is having a return type int. And area 1 is actually having rt1 dot area, so it is area 1 is having the rt1 value. Now what you can see here, so area is equal to 28, that is 7 4s are 28, and 10 into 5 is 50, so area 1 is 50, that is rt1 is 50. So I hope it is very clear. It's a simple program. You probably maybe interested in writing it, so you can write it down. It's a simple program. So let us see the next program. What is the next question is, what is a copy constructor? Illustrate the working of the copy constructor. So what is copy constructor? I've already shown you. I hope you've understood very clearly. I've explained to you with an example. A copy constructor is a member function which initializes an object using another object of the same class. A copy constructor has the following general function type. So I actually showed you what is that copy constructor type. I've actually explained to you. Again, if you want me to take you to the program, I can do that. So this is a copy constructor. So you are assigning the value of one object to the other. We'll see you back in the next video. And if you have enjoyed learning, please like, share and subscribe our channel.